Well, hello. It's good to be back with you again. And we've had some good news, haven't we? That schools are reopening again for everybody. And so those who've missed friends and teachers, you'll soon all be together again in school. And that's really good news, isn't it? We start by lighting our candles. And do we remember why we light our candles? One, because Jesus is the light of the world. Number two, to help us to say our prayers. And number three, to remind us that God is always with us. Let's light our candles. So last week we heard all about Jacob and his 12 sons, one of which was Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Now remember that Jacob had a grandfather who was called Abraham and a grandmother who was called Sarah. And Abraham and Sarah had one son called Isaac. And Isaac married Rebekah, and they had two sons, one called Esau and one called Jacob. And Jacob went off and had 12 sons, one of which was called Joseph. Now remember that Jacob really loved all his sons, but he loved Joseph particularly, and he gave him that wonderful coat of many colours. But this made his brothers rather sad and jealous, didn't they? And they didn't really think this was such a good idea. Joseph there stomping around in his wonderful coat when they weren't given one. Just didn't seem very fair, did it? But his 11 brothers did something that wasn't particularly good. They sent him off to Egypt to be sold as a slave. And we pick up our story this week at that time when Joseph is being taken into Egypt. And Jane this week again is going to read from the Bible for us.
Hi, if you remember last time, Joseph had been sold to the Ishmaelites by his brothers. This time we're going to find out what's happened to Joseph. And the reading's taken from the book of Genesis, chapter 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. An Egyptian named Potiphar was an officer to the king of Egypt. He was the captain of the palace guard. He bought Joseph from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man. He lived in the house of his master, Potiphar the Egyptian. Potiphar saw that the Lord was with Joseph. He saw that the Lord made Joseph successful in everything he did. So Potiphar was very happy with Joseph. He allowed Joseph to be his personal servant. He put Joseph in charge of the house. He was put in charge of everything Potiphar owned. Then the Lord blessed the people in Potiphar's house because of Joseph. And the Lord blessed everything that belonged to Potiphar, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar put Joseph in charge of everything he owned. Potiphar was not concerned about anything except the food he ate. Now, Potiphar's wife was attracted to Joseph, but when he was not interested, she made up nasty stories about him. When Joseph's master heard what his wife said Joseph had done, he became very angry. So Potiphar arrested Joseph and put him into prison. This prison was where the king's prisoners were put, and Joseph stayed there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him kindness. The Lord caused the prison warden to like Joseph. The prison warden chose Joseph to care for all the prisoners. He was responsible for whatever was done in the prison. The warden paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's care. This was because the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord made Joseph successful in everything he did. Now, whilst he was in prison, some of the prisoners told Joseph about their dreams, and Joseph told them what their dreams meant. 2 years later, the king had a dream. So the king called for Joseph. The guards quickly brought him out of the prison. He shaved, put on clean clothes, and went before the king. The king said to Joseph, "I have had a dream, but no one can explain its meaning to me. I have heard that you can explain a dream when someone tells it to you." Joseph answered the king, "I am not able to explain the meaning of dreams. God will do this for the king." Then the king said to Joseph, "In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile River. I saw 7 fat and beautiful cows. They came up out of the river and ate the grass. Then I saw 7 more cows come out of the river. They were thin and lean and ugly. They were the worst looking cows I have seen in all the land of Egypt. And these thin and ugly cows ate the first 7 fat cows. But after they had eaten the 7 cows, no one could tell they had eaten them. They looked just as thin and ugly as they did in the beginning. Then I woke up. I had another dream. I saw 7 full and good heads of grain growing on one stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain sprang up after them, but these heads were thin and ugly. They were burned by the hot east wind. Then the thin heads ate the 7 good heads. I told this dream to the magicians, but no one could explain its meaning to me." Then Joseph said to the king, "Both of these dreams mean the same thing. God is telling you what he is about to do. The 7 good cows stand for 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain stand for 7 years. Both dreams mean the same thing. The 7 thin and ugly cows stand for 7 years, and the 7 thin heads of grain burned by the hot east wind stand for 7 years of hunger. This will happen as I told you. God is showing the king what he is about to do. You will have 7 years of good crops and plenty to eat in all the land of Egypt. But after those 7 years, there will come 7 years of hunger. All the food that grew in the land of Egypt will be forgotten. The time of hunger will eat up the land. People will forget what it was like to have plenty of food. This is because the hunger that follows will be so great. You had 2 dreams which mean the same thing. This shows that God has firmly decided that this will happen, and he will make it happen soon. So let the king choose a man who is very wise and understanding. Let the king set him over the land of Egypt. And let the king also appoint officers over the land. They should take 1/5 of all the food that is grown during the 7 good years. They should gather all the food that is produced during the good years that are coming. Under the king's authority, they should store the grain in the cities and guard it. That food should be saved for later. It will be used during the 7 years of hunger that will come on the land of Egypt. Then the people in Egypt will not die during the 7 years of hunger." This seemed like a very good idea to the king. All his officers agreed. And the king asked them, "Can we find a better man than Joseph to take this job? God's Spirit is truly in him." So the king said to Joseph, "God has shown you all of this. There is no one as wise and understanding as you are. I will put you in charge of my palace. All the people will obey your orders. Only I will be greater than you." The end.
Thank you, Jane. So this first part of the video will stop now, and I invite you to watch the animated story of Joseph going into Egypt and hear about everything that happened to him there.